Welcome back, viewers, to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, and we have with us Mr. Alvin Douglas, the certified diver and coach, and he's going to talk to us about the importance of CPR. Good morning, Mr. Douglas.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir, and how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thank you for having me.
Okay, Mr. Douglas, so we just want to get straight into the conversation. We know that over the weekend we had an unfortunate incident with a tourist that was diving off the jetty at Pigeon Point, and they had to receive emergency medical care, and the issue of CPR and CPR training came up. So just tell us, in your estimation, how important is it for not just first responders, but for the average person to learn the skill of CPR?
Well, it's very important. And I've been advocating for years to have emergency first response and first aid be introduced to our school curriculum. You can be as young as 7 or 8 years old and render assistance to somebody. But I must note and I must tell you that our lifeguards are well trained. I actually was trained as a lifeguard back in the day before I ended up in the Coast Guard, and the training that they experience is thorough. But they can't be everywhere at once. So what you want your citizens to have the ability. And the thing about training, you would find that a lot of people know about CPR, they know about heart massage, but the reason why you want to train is because you want to build the confidence. You want to build the confidence of your citizens to react. Because 90% of the time they know a little about it, but because of the training, they tend to shy away because they don't have the confidence to render assistance. And it could be as little as tilting a head. It could be as little as immobilizing your spine. It could be as little as blowing into that person. It doesn't have to progress to actual cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Yeah.
Mr. Douglas, you're talking about ensuring that the average person has the confidence in terms of applying CPR or any type of life-saving procedure, especially on our beaches for tourists. Things happen. Things happen unexpectedly. Things happen that we are unprepared for. In terms of rolling out that measure of training, I know you said we should have it in the school, in the curriculum. In terms of the workplace, have you been a part of any conversation where this type of training should be, rolled out at business places and government agencies or any type of organization where persons can enhance these skills and be confident enough to carry out procedures?
I have, but unfortunately not in Tobago. Actually, every year I take my team down to Trinidad, and there's a school in particular that I go to every year and do an emergency first response training for the kids, because the 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 the, the teachers recognize that they cannot be all everywhere at once. And I know that we're talking about drowning, but there are so many things that can happen in the workplace, as you say, and in the schools, that if you have people around that knows what to do, you can save lives. Now, the irony is that every once in a while, Tobago House of Assembly asks to represent. We represent Tobago on shows all over the world. And one of the things that stood out the last show that I went to is the amount of equipment everywhere where you can grab a first aid kit, or you can grab a defibrillator. And a defibrillator is a very important piece of equipment to learn, because it makes CPR so easy. But I have not been, to answer your question, I've not been in a formal conversation with educating workplace. What I have done over the years is offer training to institutes like the YMCA I've done training in various hotels where the staff are trained and have the confidence in the unlikely event that an incident happened in their compound. Like, for instance, the Sandy Point Beach Club, quite recently, we trained up some of the staff. So we do it all the time for the tourism part of it. But for the workplace, people feel that for some reason nothing happens in the workplace. But it can be as little as a choking at the lunchtime, a choking or a seizure. Knowing what to do as a layman is very, very important. Very, very important for when the EMTs come, when the emergency people come, they know that there was a response. There was an initial response. Yeah.
We're talking about the specific incident that took place on the weekend. If you go back to that a little bit, initially you said, of course, the lifeguards can't be everywhere at all times. Do you think that there are sufficient lifeguards for our beaches, especially the beaches that attract the most tourists? Do you think that they are outfitted with sufficient lifeguards for incidents?
Well, no and no. Unfortunately for my comrade, they are at a great disadvantage. You have to picture it, people. These people are the first responders in the unlikely event that something is to happen to our visitors or something is to happen to our brothers and sisters that venture into the water. These are the first responders. These are the first defense we have. These are the people that we need to equip. Now, I had also promised to do to have that defibrillator here. Unfortunately, I can't find it to show you the type of equipment that these professionals should have. As for manning the beach, there's been so much change over the years into the areas that bathers go. Like, for instance, Grafton. Everybody gravitates to Grafton. Everybody bathes at what you call this bay just before Mount Irvin. There's no Grange Bay. There are no lifeguards there, and the lifeguards cannot be at everywhere as one. But you have to give them the ability to mobilize. You have to give them the ability to respond, because when you dissect the incident, it really sounds like if our lifeguards are not capable of responding to incidents, but it's not that they're not capable. They are very well capable. It's just that they are not equipped enough. Okay, so you have to constantly equipment. You have to understand the dynamics of the island. You have to understand where the bathers are there, where they congregate. Right now I'm in Storby, and there's nobody in Storby, but I guarantee you in the back of Grange Bay or the Grand Colan, there's tons of people there, but there's no lifeguards. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Douglas, I know you spoke about the lifeguards and persons having a perception that the lifeguards may not be properly equipped or properly trained, and you mentioned earlier that they are in fact properly trained. I know from my knowledge that the lifeguards are trained in protocol that whenever there's someone else that is more qualified than they are, example, a medical doctor or a paramedic or anybody like that, who have more experience in terms of training in terms of medical attention, they're to give way to that person. And we know that the woman on the beach at the time, she was more qualified than the lifeguard. So he gave way to her to conduct the CPR. Just speak to us in terms of the levels, go into some more details in terms of the levels of training and the kinds of training that the lifeguards in Tobago have, and maybe where it may fall short and what might be needed to be added to their training going forward.
You're absolutely right. As part of your emergency response, you are trained to manage a scenario. So even if you have a more qualified person there, you are also trained to manage, because people don't know you are at a disadvantage if you are actually performing the CPR, because you need to manage response, you need to manage the calling the medical assistance. You need, so what I'm getting at is that the emergency first response is a special field. Even qualified doctors still have to come back and do that emergency response, that layman emergency response. Even qualified doctors. So we might assume that a person is on the beach and but that person is a doctor. But because you have been trained to manage an entire scenario, you will be more apt to assist even better. Okay, as a diver, as a qualified dive instructor, one of the things we train our divers when they get to the professional level as a dive master or a rescue diver is to manage a scenario, manage it. So we show you how we would harness all the resources, call people who are a little bit more qualified or in the medical field, or even not in the medical field, because all you need to do is to get somebody, hold that person's head still, keep that person chin tilted so that the airway is nice and clear. But you could only have that training if it's a layman type of training. And when we say layman type of training, we don't have any special skills. We teach you the very basic life support. That's why they call it basic life support. What are we doing? We are keeping that person alive until the professionals come to render more assistance. We're not giving you any medication. We're not injecting you. We are not doing any kind of a TV-like performance. What we're doing, we're keeping circulation, breathing. We are keeping you alive until ambulance or the professionals get there. Okay?
All right, Mr. Douglas. I mean, as we mentioned before, it's a very unfortunate situation that we are in, and I understand that the young man went through surgery and he's doing okay, and we just pray for the best.
Yeah.
We do hope that a conversation, a meaningful conversation that will lead to action will take place in terms of training, whether it is phase by phase basis, to have persons on the island trained adequately, even if we get up to 50, 60, 70% of the population trained, that will bring that measure of relief in situations like this, not just for the beach, as we mentioned, but also in any space that we find ourselves choking on something at lunchtime, whatever it might be, fainting, whatever it might be. Let there be some conversation that leads to hands-on physical training so that we are able to provide that measure of relief. In closing, is there anything that you'd like to share before we go?
You know that we are being prepared for hopefully an influx of visitors in our island. And part of that preparation is to prepare your population and prepare your professionals, your first responders in the unlikely event, because it's inevitable that you are going to get incidents, not only amongst ourselves, but with the visitors. Okay? So you have to now, as you say, constantly have training. Start with the schools, start with the businesses. All it takes is 2 days. We are emergency first responder trained advisor. I'm sorry, I get my words mixed up. But we are emergency first responder trainers, and we are able to provide training to the entire island. We already do it in Trinidad. Unfortunately, my brothers and sisters, they don't take it up in Tobago. So we go to Trinidad and train the schools and the businesses in Trinidad. Yeah, but I am open to conversation, and I'm excited because I know that it's gonna happen. Yeah.
All right. Well, we do hope that the conversation will continue, and we see where it goes from there. Thank you so much, Mr. Douglas, for joining us this morning and bringing that information for us. And we do hope that we can take things a little further from just being here this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break before we continue conversations this morning. And we do hope that you could stay locked on with us. And as you stay, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.